I'm really excited to share my story on the 50 Tastes of Grey podcast. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my story of how I beat burnout, how I worked in the corporate world at Bentley Motors, set up my own business to help other business owners to grow their businesses without burning out. I'm really excited to hear your feedback and your comments around our podcast, and I'm really hoping to support you in your future growth. Thanks a lot and enjoy.
80% of life takes place in the gray areas, not in the extremes, but in the quiet in-betweens. It's messy, it's nuanced, it's delicious, and that's where the real conversations live. Join me on 50 Tastes of Grey.
Today on 50 Tastes of Grey, Matthew welcomes a special guest whose journey from corporate strategist to global burnout whisperer is nothing short of electric. Angela Hodgson brings heart, leadership, and psychological firepower to the mic, sharing insights on chaos, energy, and the kind of legacy that outlives spreadsheets. From the UK to Hawaii, this is a transatlantic dive into growth, grit, and fighting burnout with brilliance. Angela, welcome to the table.
This is officially my first podcast, so it's something new for me. Yeah, so you're honoured, Matthew.
Oh, wow. It's almost like the cherry is gone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's popped officially. In him, it's incredible how he can move his body because inherently I'm quite a nosy person. I love the inner psyche of people, the psychology. I'm really curious about why people behave in a certain way.
What would the soundtrack in your household be? Would it be more Beyonce or more Bebop Deluxe?
Well, I like a good twerk, so Beyonce is a good one for us.
Angela, welcome to the studio. Before we dive into all of the things that you're about, I'd love to start kind of soft. What is something totally non-business that lit you up this week?
What a lovely question. Well, it's actually something quite personal. So it was my youngest son, who is 7. We just had such a lovely time at the beach. So we've got a caravan in North Wales and we went to the beach and he's been searching for this specific shell and he managed to find this shell and his little face lighting up was just the loveliest thing. So that's something that's lit me up this week, is some personal time with my son.
Was it a certain look or a certain animal shell that you were looking for?
It was a certain, I don't know the name of the shell, to be honest, but he knows them. He researches them. And he's been looking on the beach for a while and he just ran towards me with this shell and he was like, Mummy, I found it. And now we've got it in pride of place in the caravan.
Very cool. I've always thought, Angela, that every great strategist needs a reset every now and again. So what's your comfort ritual after a really hard day? Would it be tea and silence or something maybe more delightfully chaotic?
It depends on what has caused the stress. So there's a few different things that I'll do. Sometimes I literally just need to just be in total silence. So have a nice relaxing bath with some nice lavender oils and a nice face mask and something really chilled with some meditation music and really go quite zen. Other times it's I need to vent. I'll ring my best friend and I have a type of conversation and have a big chat about something. Other times I want a big hug with my husband or my children. And other times I just want to switch my brain off. And one of the ways I switch my brain off is through watching reality TV. So something that really doesn't take a lot of time in my head. I find I really love crime dramas, but when I watch them, my head is going into analysis mode. And then that's adding to my stress stack because it's something else I'm trying to solve. So it depends what's caused the stress, but they're the different things that I tend to do.
So that mellows you out. Watching reality TV and other people going through the stresses of life makes you mellow.
And it's like a secret kind of thing because it's not something that I admit to everybody. So it's first heard here, Matthew, but it is something that does switch me off because inherently I'm quite a nosy person. I love the inner psyche of people, the psychology. I'm really curious about why people behave in a certain way. So I get quite ingrained and involved and, oh, that's quite interesting. Oh, did you know that they've chatted to such and such a person? Well, I can't wait to see the highlights tomorrow. It genuinely is something that I quite enjoy watching.
So that will help you unwind and get some better sleep.
Yes, yeah, it does. And I do have really good evening rituals as well. So I try to be really good with my diet, with my exercise, with my meditations on an evening, the way in which I kind of structure my evening routine. I've nailed that quite a lot because I do struggle with sleep. So I have to have certain things in place to help me to have a better night's sleep. And I find I do operate a lot better when I have had that sleep.
Oh, that's so interesting. What would the soundtrack in your household be? Would it be more Beyonce or more Bebop Deluxe?
Well, I like a good twerk, so Beyonce is a good one for us. We do like a good kitchen rave in our house, so we will often be dancing in the kitchen just to entertain each other and just to have a bit of a release. My other son, who is 14, he's a fantastic dancer, so I just love watching him. It's incredible how he can move his body, and he's got a lot of energy, so it's a nice kind of release bubble or release valve for us all dancing in the kitchen.
That's fantastic. How many podcasts have you been on?
This is officially my first podcast, so it's something new for me. Yeah, so you're honoured, Matthew.
Oh, wow. It's almost like the cherry is gone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's popped officially.
Well, good. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's exciting because it's something I've wanted to do for a while because I feel like I've got a lot of stories and hopefully some quite good tips to share with people. And I want to support a lot more people. Obviously, we'll get into different stories and things later, but I think this is a really good platform. And the fact this is from Hawaii is just incredible because I've always wanted to visit you guys. Always wanted to say officially the aloha. So this is my entry point.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, aloha, and all of that. Yeah. Let's play some rapid association before we start to really get into it. Sound good?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds really good.
Just say the first thing that comes to mind. All right. Burnout.
Denial.
Strategy.
Inspiring.
Chaos.
Daily. Calm and harmony.
Okay. Let's circle back to chaos. Your response to chaos was daily. Tell me why that is.
Because I work with a lot of different business owners who constantly are in chaos. And it's not from their own making. It's not through anybody's making, really. It's just inherent in when you're trying to grow your business. There's a lot of chaos that happens because you can't get control of it. It is complex. You're trying to do something breakthrough and something new. So chaos ensues. So every day I'm supporting clients with chaos in terms of how to avoid it, how to overcome it, or what to put in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So that's why it would be daily. It's not necessarily from my life. It's from the services and support that I provide to my clients.
You have an interesting background, Angela. Your journey has taken you from luxury automotive boardrooms to reshaping leadership from the inside out. Today, we're going to be peeling back the layers of burnout and what rises from its ashes. Tell us about the burnout that you experienced and how you became this expert to help others.
So it's a bit of a long tail, really. I'm going to do a shorter version of the burnout experience myself. So I just want to start off by saying I had an incredible career at Bentley. I absolutely loved the 9 years that I spent there. Corporate is where I cut my teeth in leadership. I learned so much. I was given loads of amazing experiences, traveling the world, launching products, staying in amazing hotels, working with lots of different cultures. But if we rewind to 2018, I had my second baby. There was nearly 8 years between our children. So it was a bit of a life-changing moment to kind of start becoming a parent again. Returned to work in 2019. Everything had changed during that time. So I had a different boss. There was different expectation. There was a lot of pressure in terms of hitting finances and things like that in the business. The culture had changed quite a lot. I was having a lot of personal issues with having a new baby or 2 children now to balance and still then traveling the world, still doing the big commutes, still trying to do all these massive things with a big team. And it was very, very difficult. A few months later, there was COVID. So COVID happened. Obviously, that's a massive thing in the whole world that impacted everybody. Both my children are neurodiverse, so they were really struggling during that time with that transition. One's autistic and ADHD, and the other one's got autism. So there was a lot of complexity with that. One of my friends died. She was only 35. There was lots of illnesses in the family. There was just so much that burnout happened, not just because of the professional corporate background, but because of the instability in my life. And I've always found that if one area of my life is unstable, professional or personal, I'm fine, I can cope. But when they're both collapsing, I just could not cope. And I've never felt that level of just not being able to get out of bed, not being able to think properly, not being able to even have conversations. So I went to the doctors and I actually had, it was like a breakdown. I just couldn't function. So I was off work for, I think it was about 6 weeks. And I really didn't do a lot, which was just not like me at all. I'm normally like an energy bunny. Then I was furloughed for 8 weeks, and over here in the UK, it was lovely weather. I was out in the garden with the children, just had such a lovely time, and I really made this decision to change. So I went back to work, and there was an opportunity for voluntary redundancy, which I then took. And I thought, this is the time now to start making changes in how I'm leading and who I'm going to become and who I'm going to support in the future. So I made some fundamental shifts in my leadership style because I could control that, left Bentley, and then set my own business up to then think there's loads that I can help other business leaders to do and business owners to do to not have burnout, but to grow the business and grow their leadership style.
The way that you approached your own burnout, was it something that you needed a mentor for, or were you reading? What kind of strategies were you getting from outside external sources?
So there was a few things really. The first thing was counselling. So I actually had quite a traumatic childhood, and there was a lot of things. I was 38, I think, around this time. There was a lot of things from my childhood. You know, everybody always says childhood pops up, rears its ugly head at some point. I kind of had this moment where I realised that, you know, there was a lot of bad things that happened in my childhood. So first of all, it was counselling, just to start to create better coping mechanisms just in my life, in my head about my childhood, certain triggers, certain behaviours. So counselling, still having counselling now, the best investment I've ever done in my entire life. Something that I had to personally overcome my own negative beliefs around, thinking it made me look a certain way or people would judge me. So that was a big overcoming my own fear factor of counselling. That was one thing. Mentoring and coaching from external and other leaders in Bentley actually helped me quite a lot because they gave me a different perspective and a different outlook on life. But what I found is that I've got a real solid business background. I did my degree, my master's in business. I've got it within me. I can actually self-reflect a lot. I can see the mistakes I've made. I can see the things that me doing to myself is making things worse that I could control. That's where I started to make changes in how I was leading, asking for more feedback, being more vulnerable in the workplace. I'd always had a mask on. Everybody always saw me as this really confident, high-performing young leader in the business. When I came back after my burnout and my breakdown, and I actually told people what I'd been through, and you know I was off because I was stressed or burnt out, genuinely they just couldn't believe that that was me. But the more I started opening up to people and telling them, the more they started opening up to me, and it created safe spaces for them as well. In answer to your question, there was actually quite a lot that I did. Some of it worked really well, some of it didn't. But those are the lessons that I've learned.
I love how you've been able to turn burnout into brilliance. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What did burnout look like when it was revving its engine in your rearview mirror?
What a good question. So what you'll see is that you have this team and they're starting to behave quite chaotically. They're confused. There's lots of complexity. You start to see a lot of gossiping, a lot of backbiting, a lot of blame. You start to see morale dip where people just don't know what their place is. They don't know what that big picture is. They don't know how they fit into all of those different things. The world around them is happening in the business, but they can't connect the dots. Well, why is that happening? And why are we doing that? And where's my role in that? Is my role safe? So you start to see a lot of difference and changes in behaviours. And it's fight or flight. Some people are either quite aggressive and quite angry and quite attacking and questioning them why. And other people, it's complete apathy. They'll go home early. They won't turn up in work. They won't engage in meetings. They won't engage in conversations. They're not proactive anymore in any of the projects they're doing. They do the bare minimum. So there are lots of telltale signs, both in corporate and in SME. But what I find is that a lot of people aren't aware of the signs. They just go into blame mode. Oh, Janet's had a bad day, or Janet's annoying at the minute. Janet's not doing X, Y, and Z. Don't have a client called Janet. I'm just making the name up. But you start to see that people don't know how to figure out what is actually happening. Therefore, they don't know what to do to solve it.
So was there a specific moment, or was it a slow simmer that made you say, that's it, I'm out of here, no more corporate stuff for me?
It was a collection of things, really. But one thing that stood out in my mind is when I returned from maternity leave, I ended up going on this big event in Barcelona. And when I was on this event, I think there was about 50 staff, something like that I was managing. We had delegates coming in from all over the world, so from Australia, from America, from Dubai, to this event in Barcelona. And what happened was there was a massive conflict, like in Barcelona, and it was to do with Barcelona. And I don't quite know the politics. I'm not going to try and get into it. But basically, they were setting fire to the city and they were trashing everything. And there was this massive thing. I had colleagues who was in the airport in Barcelona, and they were stuck. People were bombarding into the airport and were trying to attack my colleagues. Had delegates in the sky that we couldn't get to land. We were trying to get all of this rerouting stuff. And I just felt so exposed because I felt like literally the lives of all these people is in my hands, my decisions, my accountability. And I didn't feel supported back at base. when I was speaking to back at base, back in the headquarters and asking for support, I was being asked to write risk logs and risk assessments for these different things and make sure the product is safe, as in the cars, and be prepared to justify all the decisions that you've made when you come back to HQ. And I just felt like I'm out here, I'm exposed. I've got all these people who are literally in life-threatening situations, and you're asking me for risk assessments. And that, to me, just felt like it just isn't right. I ended up missing my friend's funeral because I literally couldn't fly back to the country because the airports were locked down whilst I was over in Spain. My children are crying for me to come home. I was only supposed to be there for a week, and I ended up being there for 2 weeks, trying to sort all this chaos, and just felt completely unsupported. So that was I returned to work in the September, and that happened in the November. So it's only after a couple of months. And then there was a continual decline or issues that were happening at that particular point. And then a few months later, COVID hit. And again, some of that corporate politics around how that was handled. Yes, there was amazing things that they did for furlough. Yes, we got some really good money packages to kind of support us through those different things. But the other pressure that was being put on, it jarred, and I found it quite difficult. And that didn't help when I had all those other personal problems happening as well.
Long after you left the last corporate job that you had to the time that you opened up, is it called Elite Business Improvement?
It is called Ignite Improvement, which feels much more like me. It's all about sparking and momentum and energy, which is a lot more aligned to who I am. But it's a bit of a bit of a story around the business. My husband and I set the business up. I think it was about 17 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. I know it was before we got married, but I can't remember exactly when it was. It was about that amount of time ago. And we set it up because at the time I'd done a graduate role, and I applied for this head of role. I got offered the job, but it had all this responsibility, but it didn't have the financial element that I wanted. It didn't have that longevity of breadth of things that I wanted. And I thought, I don't just want to do a head of role in a department and kind of stay here. I want to go out and experience the world. I want to go out and experience all these different industries and companies. So at 24, I made the decision to set the business up. And so I set the business up. I did that for 6 years, had a baby, then thought, this is quite hard to have stability when I've had a baby. And then I got headhunted by Bentley, went to Bentley for 9 years. And then after that, left Bentley. And then I did a bit of a dual part. So I started working on a government program. And that government program was providing consultancy services to small to medium businesses in the UK. And then at the same time was also then growing my business. So I did a dual piece. And I left Bentley 5 years ago. And it was 5 years ago that I was doing the dual piece.
Was there any sort of upset about moving from a corporate secure type of position to beginning on your entrepreneurial venture of starting your own business?
There was a bit of a transition. I guess that's the best way to say it. So when you're in the corporate world and you're a senior leader in the business, you've got a lot of authority or voice around things. You're in the big meetings, you're making the big decisions, you're part of these transformational changes. You've got a lot of staff, you've got a lot of budget to do these things. And then all of a sudden you're working with small to medium businesses, the corporate waffle, you don't realize how corporate waffle you've become until you're out of it. When you're talking to people about, we need to synergize, we need to sync, and they're looking at you like, you're talking gobbledygook, you're talking alien language. That was quite a big transition, learning my own language. And actually, it's made me become a lot more confident because I don't need to be this corporate waffle type of person who I'd become. I just need to be me. I need to use my own language, my own words, and make it really basic to understand, because that's what everybody connects with anyway. That was one thing in terms of the transition. The other thing in terms of transition was pace. So in the corporate world, you think you're working at pace, but it's completely different type of pace in the small to medium business world. Corporate world, the pace is volume and breadth. You've got so much responsibility on so many different topics could kind of fall under you. But in the small to medium business, you want to make a decision, you make it. Go and directly speak to the CEO, I think we should enter that market, or send an opportunity with that product. Like, yeah, great idea, let's do it. Whereas corporate, that could be weeks and months of pre-positioning and meeting after meeting after meeting. So the pace was quite different as well, corporate to SME. So I'd say that they're the two biggest transitions.
When you take a look at the corporate world, if you broke it down into 3 different major categories, let's say people excellence, cultural excellence, and strategic excellence, which one do you think is the most misunderstood in the business world?
In corporate or in SME?
Yeah, in corporate.
People.
And so how do you bring that up?
For training and development or learning and development for all of the retail staff globally. So I had a lot of influence over it. And what I also used to do is do a lot of work with internal colleagues in terms of leadership assessment, coaching, mentoring of people at different levels in the business. So I myself could advocate and do quite a lot in that space. But what I also did was set up, one of the things that I really loved doing at Bentley actually, I set up a connection with a local charity. So at one point, I think I had 50 interns who were directly being mentored or supported or coached by me. And I was connecting them with a local charity so they could actually do meaningful work in the community, because they might not have had that level of support within the corporate environment, but they could have a massive impact in the charity environment. And we actually won awards for that. So that was something that I was really proud of in terms of driving some of that people excellence and looking for broader opportunities. They do invest in people in terms of learning development. There are programs that you can go on. The leadership assessments are incredible. I learned so much from going through that. But just the general bit around the giving people that voice, people feeling really empowered to do the different things that they can actually influence. The silos, because it's so big in corporate, there's quite a lot of silos. So you don't necessarily know somebody in engineering, therefore it's really hard to get a decision made. It's that I think is the gap really, of breaking down those silos and that horizontal communication.
When a company contacts you, do they even know what their issues are? Or are they just feeling that they're spinning out of control and they need some help, and then you have to then define what's going on?
It can be a bit of a variance. It depends on how they've come to me. So a lot of my clients have come to me because I work with 3 different universities in the UK. So I work with Manchester Met, I work with Leeds University Business School, and I work with Salford University as well. So I do webinars for them on business transformation strategy, people type topics. So if they've come through that route, they've listened to a webinar of mine and they're like, you know the things you're talking about on XYZ? Yeah, kind of connects the dots with me. I kind of feel like that. Can you help me to fix it? So that's one route in. Another route in is through referrals, where I've worked with somebody in the past and they'll say, oh, you need to work with Angela. You've got this problem. You need to work with Angela. And then they'll come to me and say, such and such a body said you help them fix XYZ. Can you help me to fix it? But if it's a cold lead of somebody who has just kind of reached out and they know they need support to grow their business, they tend to be quite narrow focused on, I have this idea to do X, Y, and Z. They don't necessarily understand all the people and culture elements that are required to achieve that. And that's when that happens. I tend to use quite data-driven tools to help them. So to give the evidence and data back to them to say, this is the things that's going to block your path. You've got some problems here with culture. You've got some problems here with capability. You've got some problems because you don't have a clear strategy or you don't have an implementation plan for that strategy. So I use quite a lot of diagnostic tools if that's the case.
Sounds like what you're doing is a combination of not only business, but also psychology.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have any background or training in psychology?
I did an A-level in psychology. So that was a long time ago when I was 18 that I did the psychology. But I also then, when I did my master's, my degree was in business and IT. And when I did my master's, it was in business improvement. But a massive amount of it was about people. It was about culture. It was about HR. I had a fantastic lecturer or mentor who I worked with then and still work with now, called Dr. Anne Mulhaney. And she's incredible. She's an expert in change management and people. And throughout my career, she's kind of coached me. And we actually worked together for, I think, about 8 years in Bentley as well. So that's kind of what helped me then go on to this path of people. But people is my passion. Like everything about what I do in life is about people, understanding them, helping them to see themselves, helping them to see their blind spots, and inspiring them and mainly motivating them, being their cheerleader in the background. That's what I absolutely love to do.
Since you're inspiring and motivating people with powerful strategies, we both know that strategies don't always stick. So what's the secret to getting a team not just aligned, but energized to act?
Energy is my big thing. So all of my clients, they always describe me as really energized, but very structured. So I bring a lot of ability through structure. So energy for me is about understanding what energizes the individual, because everybody's energized by different things. So there is actually a specific coaching session that I do with people to understand what energizes them. There's also another session I do to think about the core values of the business. So what energizes the business? What's the behaviors? What's acceptable? What's the energy? What's that ripple effect that we want in the business? But ultimately, it's wrapped around purpose. We don't have a clear purpose for the business. It's very hard to energize, because if you don't know where you're going, you're not really that energized, because all the effort you're putting in, just spinning in circles. So we talk about that true north, the direction that we're going in, but making that something that does inspire people, making that something people believe in, they connect to. There's a lot of communication that I support businesses with to actually cascade, engage, and connect people to that strategy.
It seems to me that energy is always best when someone learns how to channel it. Otherwise, it can seem a little bit splayed out, maybe something that's not going to be helpful. So is that something that you work on also? And how do you break down the strategies, philosophies, and techniques?
So in terms of what people are actually motivated or energized by, it can be completely different things. And sometimes that causes the clash of the titans. That causes the, oh, well, why are they behaving like that? Well, why do they want to do that? There's an actual coaching session that I do with a tool called Belbin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Belbin. It's a behavioral analysis tool, and it's really good for team dynamics, and it's really good for understanding what energizes somebody. And when you're looking at that, it's helping people to understand and recognize how other people contribute towards that. So I literally did a coaching session today with somebody. They're really energized by coming up with new ideas, driving momentum, driving things forward, getting in the detail, reading all the contracts, signing off the T's and C's, doing checklists of stuff. They don't want to do it. And he was actually saying to me, he kept calling it the battle mode, how he's had loads of battles in the past with different people. And he, like at loggerheads, and he never understood why. And he said today was a light bulb moment, because now he's understood it's a difference of energy. That other person he was battling with loves the detail. They don't want to go before all of those things are signed off, sealed, delivered, ticked off the list. He's halfway up the mountain before they've even put their kit list together. So for me, in terms of energy, it's about not only recognizing what energizes you, but recognizing that opposites attract. There's a book that's quite good about it, actually, which is called Surrounded by Idiots. And that's about DISC. And that the profile of that is that until you have this understanding of other people's energy, personalities, and behaviors, you think it's only the way you think, you behave, you act is the right way. And you think you're surrounded by idiots. But when you have that broader understanding of other people, you realize they're not idiots. Actually, there's a lot of value you can get from working with them effectively.
When you've been with the company doing what you do, igniting them, and you tell the big bosses of the decision makers, this is going to cost a lot of money because we need to focus on this area and that area. And if you're talking to somebody who's conservative and has been doing it and he thinks his way is the only way, how do you overcome that?
Help people to understand that it's about an investment, not a cost. If you see it as a cost, you don't really meet my ideal client profile. We're probably not going to have a long-lasting relationship, because it's not about something that's a short-term cost, get in, get out, tick some things. You've done a personality test, you've done a cultural assessment, you've written a strategy, tick, 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 out you go, Angela. That's not the type of client I want to work with. I want to work deep, and I want to work with you for a long time, and I want to add a lot of value to your business. So I really help them to understand through those diagnostic tools, here's the problems that you have in your business, and I know how to solve them, and I know how to solve them quickly. And I know how to solve them for a long-term impact, not just a sticking plaster over the top of them. But because I've got a lot of case studies and I've got a lot of really positive testimonials, and a lot of my clients come through referrals, or they've watched me in terms of the university programs I'm on, it doesn't tend to be that difficult of a sell, because they generally come to me. They know they have a problem and they don't know how to fix it. It's quite rare to get someone coming to me that they just don't know what they want and it's like a shop window. It's a bit more kind of targeted than that.
I always ask people from all fields, all lines of work, how you quantify success. So tell me how you quantify yours.
I quantify my success through the legacy that I leave. So me having clients, I literally had somebody last week on LinkedIn send me a recommendation out the blue. I worked with them 3 years ago, and they sent me a message to say, Angela, thank you so much. We've just been reflecting on our strategy, because we wrote a 3-year strategy together, and I worked with them for a year. We've just been reflecting on our 3-year strategy and how much of a difference you made. We couldn't have got to this position without you. We've achieved all of our strategic goals. We've completely changed the way that we operate as a business. Our relationships are better. We're quicker. We're more efficient because of you. And that is how I measure success, is the lasting legacy. Those things that we collaborate and design together to improve your business, you're still using all these years down the line. That North Star, that direction, that strategy we defined and I helped you to define, you're still guiding you and guiding your business. But I think the difference of how I work with my clients to have that lasting legacy and to have that success metrics is I'm not a consultant that goes in and just does it for you as a gold ribbon around it and say, oh, here's your strategy. I work with you so you can work independently. They can own the tools. I train them on the tools. I review. I give them feedback. My goal is to not have you reliant on me to do those things. My goal is to make you an absolute superstar within your own business.
So when you work with various different companies, and all these important things are the culture, the corporate culture and the personal people part of it, does it all boil down to when you wipe everything down to its core? Is it always that these businesses are money oriented? They're not making as much money as they want, or they're losing money and they need to build that up. And they figure that if they make more money, they can afford to do the people stuff and the cultural stuff.
Tends to be that they have an ambition to grow, or in some of the clients I work with, they're just growing really fast. They don't know why they're growing so fast, but they are growing so fast, but it's growing too fast for them. They can't keep up. It's not scalable. The processes, the capabilities, the structures, the systems in the business, and they don't know how to scale it whilst it's growing. So they need that someone who can do both things quickly and knows how to do it. That's one side. But when it is the other side of the business is failing, it's not performing and it's going under, I'm not really the person who works with those in terms of recovery mode, because that's more around, you want a financial expert at that point. How can you cut costs out of the business? How can you become very lean? And a lot of the time that means removal of people. And that's not really me. I'm more about how do you grow the capabilities of your people or grow and extend your team to enable you to grow in the future. So it's a complete opposite kind of service. So they wouldn't come to me for that.
So since you're such a structured thinker, do you bring that side of your personality to your home life? Do you find yourself slipping into consultant mode when you're with your boys or your family?
So my son, the 14-year-old, he's quite savvy and he'll say, "Mum, stop coaching me. I know all about open questions. I know that you're doing the grow technique on me at the moment," because I've probably stupidly informed him of some of these techniques. But he's actually one of my proudest things, because since he turned about 7, I've done a lot with him in terms of business. So he is actually naturally very interested in the world of business. So very often I'll talk to him about problems my clients have, issues that they're experiencing. What would he do in that situation? What would he advise them? And he's taking business as a GCSE. So it's like a formal qualification in England. He's starting that in September. So I'm quite pleased about that, to be honest. But with my husband, because we own the business together, we kind of have to talk shop. We have to talk business because it's a joint ownership for the business. My 7-year-old hasn't got a clue what business is. He doesn't have a clue what I do. He just knows that I'm on a lot of calls. So he doesn't know. It is quite funny because I do try to have processes for a lot of things. So even when our children are sick, when one of them throws up, me and my husband have very specific roles that we complete. And the reason I put that into place is the very first time one of our children literally threw up, it was a disaster. And he was trying to do stuff and I was trying to do stuff, and it just ended up chaos. So after that, I reflected and then said to my husband, right, your responsibility is to sort out the mess, the sick and wherever that's gone. My responsibility is the child. And since then, it just works. He does the bins. I don't do the bins. We have very specific roles, responsibilities and jobs. And so, yeah, I guess I do kind of structure my home life as well as much as I can.
So it sounds like you're the driving force.
I think, yeah, in one sense, but my husband and I have been together for 25 years. So I started dating him when I was 17. So I think it's just we're just very familiar and used to each other. I'd say, yes, I am definitely the more dominant character, the extrovert. My husband is very introverted, very quiet, very antisocial, doesn't really like people. So he is definitely the opposite to me. But he's very, very funny. And he does put me in my place. So he does tell me if he thinks I'm out of order, or he gives me a lot of freedom as well. So he's probably the one person who can, just kind of say, let's just hold that back a little bit, or wherever it may be. And when he says that, because he doesn't really say it that often, and then I think probably shouldn't launch 10 new things at the same time.
So it sounds like to me, you guys being partners, that you're the point person. You're the one who is the person who goes into the company and kicks a little ass, and your husband supports you and does his stuff, but from the home more so than out in the world.
Yeah, so we both mainly work from home. The world of COVID has actually been quite useful for that. Obviously, technology and online and all of that kind of stuff. My clients are all over the UK, and I've actually got clients. The session that I had this morning that I was talking about, the developing session, that person based in the US. So I do work with people in different countries, which is great. And I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for all the technology. My husband does all the back office stuff. So he does all of our compliance, policies, insurance. He's an accountant by trade. So he does all of our accountancy stuff. But he's also got his own clients. So he does accountancy and financial services with clients. And then I do all of the people, culture, strategy stuff with clients. We don't collaborate on any clients together. So that is quite separate. But as a business, I do front office and he does back.
What's the most British thing about how you run a meeting?
Oh, talking about the weather at the beginning. That's a very British thing to do. Yeah, so you tend to, it just is a standard British thing to talk about at the beginning of a meeting. And I find that because in Bentley, I did have an amazing opportunity because I did have teams based all over the world. So I had teams that were based in Australia, in Singapore, in Germany, in China. I had teams based in the UK, in America, all over the world. I actually fully loved immersing myself into different cultures. And, the way meetings are run in these different companies or cultures, sorry, is very different. And I found it a really good experience just to learn different cultures. I think now it's come into post-COVID years and it's come into more online stuff. I don't really tend to see a difference in how meetings are run in different cultures anymore because you don't really get, it's normally the social side that is quite different in different cultures, but people normally cut to the chase a bit more now in online meetings because they don't want to be on Teams and, with headsets on. And so I think there's a lot more alignment in how different meetings are run in different regions and cultures now.
So the meetings that you do are like this, they're teleconferences.
Yeah, mainly. I do executive coaching one-to-one, or I do group sessions online as well. I use an amazing tool called Mural, which is a digital whiteboard. And I've created a lot of toolkits or workshop sessions on Mural. So I've got really good facilitation tools and methods to make it really engaging online. And that helps because, again, some of my clients are mainly remote themselves. So their leadership team, all over the UK, but they're not often together anyway. I do some face-to-face stuff, and I do love face-to-face stuff. I love being at the front, facilitating events and all that kind of stuff. I do get a lot of enjoyment. But because I do have two neurodiverse children who need me, all of the traveling that it takes to travel to all of these different locations, it means I'm spending less time with the children. And one of the reasons why we set the business up again is to have time with the children and to enable that balance. So that's kind of why I do it the way that I do it.
It totally makes sense that you do that. Here in the States, buzzwords are huge in business. And that's one of the things when I'm looking for guests, I'm always looking for people who don't use a lot of buzzwords. Yeah. So what buzzwords are you fed up with in British business?
I think because I work with a lot of SMEs and my whole thing is about approachable language, I'm actually seeing less and less buzzwords being used. There was always a thing of, what is it, TLA, 3-letter acronym, and people used to say it's a TLA, so 3-letter acronym. I've come from the corporate world, so, I used to use all that corporate bullshit, as you call it,
Uh-huh.
I don't really connect or like it anymore, and I don't really hear it that much in the SME world. It is more direct language. One of my clients that I work with and I absolutely love working with, we've developed a communication strategy, and our whole thing is it has to pass the ALF test. And what that means is there was a chap who used to work there who was a really normal, day-to-day British bloke, spoke as it is, says it as it is. So our whole concept is, if ALF wouldn't understand it or it wouldn't be the words that ALF would use, then we shouldn't be using it in our company communications. So that's how I engage and work. And I don't really come across it anymore. But that's a good thing.
Because, corporate speak could be hilariously awkward.
Yeah. But it's also really confusing, when people talk about boiling the ocean and all that type of stuff. You just think, put a pin in it and all that stuff that people say. And you just think, well, yeah, what? And now with obviously neurodiversity, which I'm very familiar with my children and Gen X people coming through, it's just not the language that they connect with. So if we're trying to make workplaces inclusive and we're trying to support people into the world of work, using all that corporate speak is not going to engage them and help them feel like they can connect and add value. It's going to confuse them.
Yeah. If there are people out there in radio podcast land who are feeling exhausted or overdone, how would they reach out to you? And can you do work from the UK to the United States?
Yeah, as I said, I've got clients that are in the United States. So yeah, that absolutely works. So something that I'm going to be launching as part of my whole rebrand is a little freebie, a little gift. And that is, I've got this framework called Power that I've developed. So after all these years of working in the corporate world and all these years of working with SMEs, I have a lot of experience of helping businesses to grow, be brilliant without burning out. This framework is called Power, and it stands for Purpose, Organization, Work Habits, Engagement, and Results. And I've developed a little freebie for everybody, including your guests, which will be a little quiz to help them see what's their score. So are they reaching burnout? Are they towards brilliance? There's a little pack that you get for free as well that gives you some really quick tips of things that you can do to start to improve your power, start to improve your business brilliance. So that is going to be launching very, very soon. In terms of reaching out, I'm on all 3 platforms. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the primary one that I do use. So it is LinkedIn/in/Angela Hodgson. And Instagram, my handle is at Angela_Hodgson_official. And Hodgson, because everybody spells it wrong, is HODGSO.
Very good. Yeah, when I see you on socials, it looks like you're having a lot of fun and you're doing some great things.
Thank you. I try to put quite a lot of effort into my socials, to be honest. I only really started properly using socials in January. And it's mainly LinkedIn. And then more recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've started using Instagram and Facebook. But I made a commitment to myself in January that I am going to go more out there. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to say the highs. I've done this. This is amazing. We've achieved this. And you know what? I totally messed up. Did this, didn't work. It was a disaster, but I've learned this. This is my burnout story. This is my brilliant story. Here's my tools. Here's my techniques. Have everything. Learn from me. So help me to help you. And I've had a real community experience of loads of people reaching out in DMs, loads of amazing comments. So many people on DMs just contacting me to say, you've made me feel so safe to tell you about my burnout. I've learned so much from your social media. I tried that technique that you said, and it just made such a difference. That's what warms me up. That's what gives me a lot of passion. And that's what actually energizes me on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that's so awesome. Have you always been a people pleaser?
It's not a nice answer, unfortunately, in terms of that. So yes, I am a people pleaser, but that stems from childhood trauma. So it's not a nice answer. But the people pleaser elements of me came from feeling very unsafe as a child and not really knowing what to do. So trying to please, trying to get, that love or that feeling that I was seeking all those years back. But what it did as a child is give me a lot of resilience. But as I've grown older and since I've started counselling, try not to people please in that sense. I try to have better boundaries. I try to be more respectful to myself. I try to have better goals of what I can and can't support people with in terms of some of these weird and wonderful requests that I get. But ultimately, yes, I am still inherently a people pleaser. But what I try to do, it comes back to what I was saying earlier of leaving that lasting legacy. Instead of it being a thing to please people because I did that, I helped them do that, I gave them that. My people pleasing element is, have I helped them to help themselves? And if I've achieved that, that gives me more satisfaction and pleases me as a people person than it does for me to say, I, not we. And that's the biggest shift that I've had in my 40s.
Angela, what have you eaten today?
I had salmon and salad, and I had a tuna pasta salad. So 2 salads today. But it has been quite, to go British, it has been quite warm here. So it's been quite refreshing to have 2 nice salads.
Are you a big cook?
I like to cook. I just don't get a lot of time. So thankfully, my husband does enjoy cooking and he does cook mainly for the family. But when I have time to cook, then yes, I do like to cook.
And so what kind of cuisines are you guys into?
A lot of things that are just easy because we've got a family and we're very busy because we've got a business. So a lot of things is like spaghetti bolognese. We have a lot of pasta-based meals. We do try to be healthy, but we also do like takeaways as well every now and then. I actually quite like Chinese takeaway. One of my favourite things actually is there's a carvery that does a roast dinner that's not that far from us, and they are really, really nice. You get like nice meat, and I don't know if you know what a Yorkshire pudding is, but you get like nice Yorkshire pudding.
Oh,
you get nice veg. Like I love that. That's my favourite takeaway. It's really, really, really tasty.
3 ingredients that are always in your fridge.
Halloumi. Oh, I was going to say jam then. It's my head is going automatically to what do the children eat, and apples, because we always have the fridge well stocked up for what the kids want because we want it to be healthy things that they can grab.
Angela, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have that everyone should know?
The one thing I would like to add is that, as I said, we've done a rebrand of the business and we're actually going to be developing, or are developing currently, an online program. So coming back to what you said earlier about potential people in the US, there is an online program that I'm developing, which is about business leaders and owners coming together, learning about this power program, getting some support remotely, getting some proactive toolkits that you can put in place in your business. I'd love to kind of promote that, get people to follow me on socials and connect, because I genuinely believe this framework will be a game changer for their business.
Well, that's great. Are you using AI in any way to help you figure out programs and strategies?
So a lot of my clients are starting to use AI now. Copilot is becoming something that a lot of my clients are using. So I'm using it via them because I'm on their networks as well. And it's fascinating, the world of AI. One of my
Yeah.
clients actually builds AI, so they're a machine learning expert, and that is what their business does. So I'm involved or aware of AI through either what my clients do or platforms or things that they're using. But I'm trying to automate and systemize a lot of the things I'm doing in my business. So I'm looking at different platforms, different apps, different systems that I can use. But it's a big world of change, isn't it? I mean, obviously that has had a massive impact on people with the introduction of AI, because you've got a lot of people who are scared about losing their jobs. But for me, I don't think AI can take over what's in here. That belief, that innate connections, that experience, that spotting something because you've heard somebody talk about something, AI is never going to have that level of insight, but AI can streamline and make things more efficient and effective.
You bet. Angela Hodgson, thank you so much for joining me here in 50 Tastes of Grey. I hope you had a good time on your maiden experience.
I had an amazing time. It's like I just enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for indulging me in the chat. I've had a lovely time.
I want you to say aloha to everybody right now.
Aloha, everybody.
Thanks, Angela.